that slide that you see there, that's the only slide you're ever going to see, because it's all about a conversation. This is not a webinar. This is a very unique kind of a session where it's business coaching, group business coaching. Group, and I mean group squared, because we normally focus on group business, increasing your group business. How can we sell more groups and make more money? And it's also in a group environment. So if you have no questions, be a fly on the wall, and maybe you'll pick up a thing or two. And if there's something you want to add, what makes this program great is the sharing of best practices. Now, I did receive an awesome email from Sam with a story, an inspirational story I want to share. I don't know if Nancy's here. I didn't check. Nancy, you in the house, journey of a lifetime. She wants to talk about incentives and meetings. So we want to share Sam's story. Unless Sam is here and she wants to share it. Nancy, we're talking about incentives and meetings. So if any of you have any experience or have that desire, we'll see if we can talk about that. But what I need to know is, and this is for you newbies too, what's on your mind? What's working? What's not? Where do you need help? And if you are courageous enough to put your microphone on, then we'd love to hear your beautiful voice. If you're super courageous and we turn your webcam on, we'd love to see your beautiful face. No pressure situation. At least do the mic, and let me know you want your mic turned on. So you just type it in. That's how we communicate. You type it in. I keep checking there, and I'll let you know when I'm going to turn the mic on. So we're going to get started in just a moment. Let me just welcome everybody. Hello, Terliski is in the house. Nancy's here. Cool, Nancy. All right, we're going to talk about it. And Alan said, hello, Alan. Welcome. How do you suggest dealing with tour operators that demand significant deposits? So we already have a question in the house. That's great, which means we have 3 areas we're going to dive into. Plus, I promised you, and we may not get to do that today, but I want to field more questions from you about this river cruise group that I just escorted. And I know it's a little over a month ago, and I am preparing an actual webinar on this, everybody, because there was a lot of things that I learned. Now, I have done groups before. A lot of people say, okay, big deal, you're the founder of Group Bootcamp, but have you ever done a group? Have you ever sat in my seat? Have you ever walked in my shoes? And the answer is yes. For those of you who don't know, many, 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 many years ago, before I had gray hair, I worked for a company called Travel Savers, and I put together with a team, but I don't want to say it was the only one. Of course, it was a team effort, but we did the first ever Wheel of Fortune cruise on the Norway. You may have heard me say this before. And that was my first really time, getting into it. And then after that, I started working for the cruise lines. I worked for Costa. Then I worked for Princess. And I think, Jean Ann, that's where we met, perhaps? Isn't that where I met, Costa and Princess? I used to come call on your agency, right? I think, in New Jersey. And then I worked for Insight Vacations, so perfect conversation about tour operators, and then worked for Celebrity Cruises, Director of Field Sales, and then World Travel Holdings, where I was Vice President of Group Sales. So having worked with so many agencies who were super duper uber group producers and done groups myself, I did this river cruise group, which was a partial ship charter, many of you know, which is different from a group contract. So keep that in mind if you have any questions you want to ask me today, because not only did I plan it, not only was it my money, not only was it my risk, not only was it my contract that I negotiated with Amber Waterways, but of course I went, and I wanted to have a great time. And I did. Everything was perfect. It was awesome. It was fabulous. And, not but, there were a lot of things that I learned along the way that we can share. So, Alan, we're going to come back to you. Lena's in the house. Good morning, Lena. Happy to see you, too. By the way, hey, who saw that LinkedIn special that I did with Terry Burris? Have you seen the LinkedIn special? Lena, wasn't it great? I mean, I took a ton of notes. And when I went back to edit it, just to edit the beginning and the end, I watched it again because, man, Teddy knows his stuff. He was awesome. So grateful he did that. He's a great guy. He offered a free resource guide. Did you all get that resource guide? Because he sent it out. Jean Ann, and by the way, it's in boot camp. Jean Ann said it was Costa. I thought so. Nancy says, I am uber qualified. Indeed, but there's always something new to learn. Always. And yes, I founded a company called Nest, Network of Entrepreneurs Selling Travel, back in the day. And then I'll stop talking about myself, but I'm just giving everybody time to get in and start posting questions here. Yeah, so I had this when I was working for Celebrity Cruises. There were more and more agencies going home-based. My guess is most of you are home-based now and proud. And I saw this enormous trend. And on the supplier side of things, the suppliers are like, what do we do? What do we do? All these agents going home-based. We've never had this before. Are they legit? Are they not? You know, do they visit people? Do our sales reps visit their home? How does this work? So I saw a trend that we couldn't stop, but instead of ignore it, I said, let's embrace it. So I came up with a concept of forming a consortium that only accepted home-based agents. It was home-based and proud. Wrote the business plan, presented it to Travel Savers. They loved it, and I had worked with a bunch of people there, and we launched, and it's still a very, very successful consortium today. Very proud. I also launched Vacation.com. I was the original vice president of marketing with Vacation.com when that 800-pound gorilla came about, and now Vacation.com is Travel Leaders Network. Okay, enough reminiscing. Lena agrees that LinkedIn special was great. Jean Ann says it was great. Terlisky enjoyed that too. Hans enjoyed that session. And Marty has a question too. So this is great. This is great. And Alan said, okay, so we have a lot of good stuff coming in here. So I haven't seen anybody say they want their mic on. So what I want to start with first is I want to start with, let me start with Alan's question here. Let me go back to it. And listen, if anybody wants to chime in, please do. How do you suggest dealing with tour operators that demand significant deposits? Okay, so here we go. First time I'm seeing this question, so let me speak from the heart and tell you my feelings there. Is it possible to change suppliers? I'm giving you all the different answers that I would run through in my mind. If it's prohibitive for me to generate that kind of cash, to put that money out, especially if it's at risk, I would want to see if there were other options, other suppliers who would be more amenable to breaking deposits into segments or requiring more upfront, lowering the risk factor, because that's the first thing I would look at. And of course, I assume, Alan, that you've picked this supplier because you have a relationship with them and they deliver the perfect product. Now, let's just say that you cannot switch suppliers, because this is the supplier that the client wants, or more importantly, you want. Let's just call it a brand, because the consumer, they don't know from the word supplier, right? They just know the word brand. Okay, and I'm assuming, of course, that you've had a sit down with the folks there, and there's no negotiating, because that's the second thing I would say. You know, it doesn't hurt to ask. I'm sure you've tried that. Have a conversation. Now, it could just be that's their set policy, period, and there's nothing that they can do to help. It could be that it's a peak period, and because of that, the deposit requirements change based on the seasonality of it. So could you change the seasonality of the departure? Another option to look at. Okay. The other thing is, and I know we always talk about this, whose responsibility is it to put up the deposit? Is it yours, or is it the customer? Is it the group? Now, a lot of times, and I don't know if Lynn is on, but a lot of times you may think, oh, I'm going to get the customer, the group, to put it up, and they give you a lot of pushback, which I understand, because they're going to be like, whoa, 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 we're hiring you. I don't want to put our money at risk. So ding, 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 possible yellow light or orange light of caution, not red light. If you have a group agreement letter, Alan, and everybody, and as part of that group agreement letter, you say that part of it is that they will put up either all or some, maybe you can meet them halfway, of the deposit and outline the terms and conditions of the deposit. And if they give you pushback, then I would say the yellow or orange light is that, well, maybe they're not so confident that the group is going to happen. So take pause. And again, Alan, I don't know the specific details. Take pause and say, Why are they hesitating? Should I? Because if they're confident that the group is going to be a success, if it's their first time, they may be a little not confident. What's the opposite of non-confident? A little stressful, a little fearful, may have anxiety. If they've done it before and it's a proven thing, it's a gimme, they may not hesitate. The other part of it is some organizations don't have that kind of money to put up, and it will require an act of Congress for them to all meet, for the heads of state of the organization, association to meet to put up the money. So they may want to, but they may not be able to. Now, there's so many factors here. If you can't change, because I always say, you know, if you can't get in the front door, get in the, go around, go under, get in the back door by working with that brand or a different brand and trying to mitigate that. And if the group for some reason can't or won't, okay, big difference there. If they can't, then you're going to have to make a big decision of if you're going to put your money out, put it at risk. And so and then I'm going to see what you guys have to say. The final thing I'm going to suggest is that you have a multi-deposit requirement, Alan, which is, and I know it's a pain in the butt to end up going out multiple times to ask for multiple deposits till you get the final payment. But perhaps you can mitigate the outlay of your own cash by putting it on the travelers and coming out with doing the group launch sequence, because there's no way, baby, there's no way anybody's going to put up any money if they have no idea what they're buying. So I definitely suggest you still do group launch sequence and see if you can get do it quickly, because if you need that cash to lock it in, right? Because I know that you may like, but Stuart, I got to put the money up, then launch group launch sequence. I get that, and see if you get more money up front somehow, 50, 100, 200, so that the cash comes in, and then get another deposit a little bit later, and then the final payment. It's a pain in the butt. I get it, but you may have to do that to make it work. You know, the other thing is that, you know, with my river cruise, let me give this as an example. I gave no details of the price points, no details other than when they will be allowed to pay me their deposit. And because we started almost 2 years prior, you know, and you guys and other people were like, you're starting to promote this almost 2 years out for a river cruise? Who's going to put up that kind of money that far in advance? Well, I got no pushback. Believe me, it worked, especially for a river cruise, because it was a big chunk of money and it's a long trip. But what I did, and Alan, if you need to get that money in quick, then do something. And I did this too. I said, hey, you give me, it was $400 a person, $800 a couple, and I made it fully refundable up till the time that the next deposit was due. I'll say it again. Because it was my terms and conditions. Remember, it was a partial ship charter. Money came to me, not AMA. It was my terms and conditions. I made it fully refundable up till the next deposit, and that separated the people who were going to go and not go. Because I had 2 couples cancel that day, and I gave them their money back immediately. Immediately, because how do I know they might not come back tomorrow? How do I know that they didn't have a situation they couldn't go and might not tell friends and family, listen, we couldn't go, but baby, you should. All right? And so, Alan, that might be something to think about. Could you say, look, we're working on something big and you didn't have time to launch group launch sequence? Say, listen, put up $100 a person, and if you do, you will get first choice of availability of space in a private VIP sale. Listen to me. Remember, that's part of the group launch sequence. You'll get it in a VIP sale. All right, so you'll be able to make your bookings before anybody else. If you put up sight on, so you have no idea what I'm offering to you, friends. I know that. You think I'm crazy, but guess what? You get your $100 back anytime. Anytime. I guarantee it'll be refunded back within the hour. How's that? During business hours. And you might just get the cash. You might get the cash so you know where you stand. You got some money flow, right? You got some cash in house, so you don't have to put out that kind of money. All right, let me take a break here. Let me see what we got. See if it, so that was Alan's. And Alan says, thanks for your input. Putting the deposit burden on the customer may be the way for me. Your river cruise plan sounds like the way to go. Awesome. Alan says, nice to hear you have a partial ship chart experience. I'm doing a group to Portugal this fall and want another in 2018, but they want a huge deposit again. And so I get it. So this is good. I'm really glad. All right. And so, Alan, I'm glad that helped. I didn't see anybody else had any comments, so we're going to move on. What I want to do is go to the story of Nancy here. I want to talk briefly about incentives and meetings. Does anybody here want to know about incentives and meetings? Because what I'll sort of do is I'll pepper in some comments, some ways to get started in the business. Now, if you're in the business now, let me know. Okay? If you want to get in the business, let me know, just so I know who's on this call today. But I want to at least respect Nancy's, because she emailed me back and she wants to know, how do I get in this business? See, Nancy watched an interview I did with Ron Golaski, who had been the director of charters, meetings, and incentives with Celebrity. Now, guys and girls, if you haven't seen that episode, it's in the Experts Library and Boot Camp. Go back and watch it, because Ron, right, Nancy? Ron is brilliant. He's also a very, very good friend. We started at Celebrity at the same time, a long time ago. He's still there doing very, very well. I believe Ron is now Vice President of National Accounts. So he was with me a while ago on a show, and he was with me most recently to doing a show, and we talked about meetings and incentives. And so the first thing I want to say is, don't be scared. You can handle this. Everybody who's on this call right now, you can handle this. I guarantee you, you've had a lot tougher clients and situations that you've dealt with in your career than a meeting or incentive. Why get into the business? Why? Because it's radically different from what you're doing today in terms of how payments work and profitabilities work. While every company is looking for great value, there is no company on this planet worth its salt that is going to put an incentive out, especially an incentive, or have a meeting and be cheap. Right, Nancy? They're not going to be cheap, because then their own employees are going to go on this trip, and if it's an incentive, usually the employee and their significant other, and they're going to be, this is awful. Why did I work so hard for this? I'm not going to work so hard next year to hit my numbers. This is a cheapskate company. I'm out of here. Word gets around, motivation goes down, productivity goes down. So listen to me, everybody. Companies put big bucks into incentives. They don't want cheap. They don't want the off-the-shelf, stripped-down, bare-bones product. So right away you're looking at a client that already wants high value, more inclusive, sometimes the word all-inclusive, because they want to take away all the stress from their travelers. Now, meetings and incentives are different, naturally. But the great news is that if it's a company meeting or an incentive, you're going to get paid by how many people, friends? One person. Do you have to do individual selling to all the individual guests? No. Might you have to do some service? Of course. There's going to be special needs. You're going to take care of that kind of stuff. But usually the company, you're going to have somebody at the company who's going to be your go-between, your liaison, sexy word, liaison, for everything. So now you're saying, well, Stuart, how do I get in the door? Well, let me back up for a second. And then I'm going to stop, look to see if any comments or questions. And so let me first say that if you want to get into this business, and I can't encourage you enough. Why? Because more than likely, you have somebody on your current client list, somebody who you know, you love, you've been doing business with for years, maybe they're a new client, and either that person, their spouse, or they have friends or family who are already participating in incentives and or meetings, so you already have a potential list right sitting in your own backyard. You know, if you, in week 1 a boot camp, you say, where do I find all the groups? You're sitting on them. They're in your own backyard. So the first thing I would do is understand the business. Make sure you watch my interview with Ron Golaski of Celebrity. Make sure you watch the video module in Group Bootcamp. Have you seen it? Because that will definitely set the stage. It's got rich content. I can't overcomplicate this, folks. I can't. It's actually simpler than you think. And yes, I know what you're saying, but Stuart, the contracts with the suppliers are different. And Alan, to your point, they may ask for a big deposit. But you know where the money's coming from? From the company. They earmark this money every year. So the first thing is get educated. Number two, and if you guys want this, I'll produce more materials. I'll bring in more experts like we did with LinkedIn, like I did with Catherine Heeg, where we talked about video, how to use video on Facebook, how to use video in marketing. Did you guys see that one? I'll bring more experts too. And so number two, reach out to your best suppliers, the ones who really want meeting and incentive business. Some do, some don't. Most will, especially your sales reps, because they're going to be like, yeah, give me, I want, because it's good business for them too. And I'll tell you why in a second. It's exceptional business for you and them, So have meetings with suppliers. Say, hey, listen, I'm thinking of getting in this business, and I need your help. Do you have any current agencies in your territory who are doing this business? I want to learn. What should I do? What should not I do? What tools and resources does your company offer me to get into the meeting incentive business? Because I'm dead serious about mastering it. You'll see who shows up at your door to give you help. And then number three, I believe you're going to need to start to rebrand, so that if you go out and start talking about it, listen to me, you can't start going out knocking on doors and asking questions and talking about it, because you're not going to start selling. You'll be just another salesperson. You're going to start having conversations. They're going to check you out. They're going to go to your website, right? They're going to go to your social media. They're going to look on your business card. And I got to tell you, it's one thing if you have the word group. It's another if you have meetings, incentives, or corporate events. Maybe just corporate events. Whatever word you want to use. So they believe you know what you're doing. Especially if you've never done one before and they're not looking at any pictures of all the other corporate meetings and incentives that you've done, that you've escorted, or that you can list with a logo. So the first one is going to be the hardest, but it's always that way. So final note here, and then Nancy, you tell me if this little bit has helped inspire you. I want to see everybody's feedback too. The reason why is because the supplier, especially, normally they love these clients because there's very low cancellations. It's like a guaranteed booking when a company does an incentive or a meeting. It's almost always at a higher price point, and they normally charge more. What do you mean they charge more? That's right. For an incentive or a meeting, a supplier was not going to give you that discounted consumer rate out there. Okay? So it's a whole other way of pricing. It's a whole other way of making inclusions, of accepting payments. But it's nothing beyond what you guys can master. Trust me, you can do this. All right? And companies, believe me, they're not going to go on such and such.com, you know, cheapthis.com and say, well, we see the same cruise for less money, you know. Well, and then you know what your answer is. Sure. First of all, you're not going to get that rate. Listen to me. You're not going to get that rate for all 20 people, 30 people, 40 people, 50 people. That's a highly limited availability rate. That is a stripped down price point in a category you wouldn't want your people in. The disappointment cost will be very high. If you want to have your most valued employees, your highest performers, your highest producers, be really disappointed, book it. I can't help you with that. I can't be a part of that because meetings and incentives are too important for the health and welfare of a company. All right, let me get off my gravy train. Let me see what you guys are talking about here. Let me start here. Oh, yeah, we get a lot of good conversations here. Marty, I'm going to come back to your question next. Alan, I got that. Alan, Ramona says, yes, I would like incentive in meetings. Jean Ann says, definitely interested in meetings at C. All right. Alan, this is a comment from Lynn. Alan, if you have a host or consortium, ask them if any suppliers waive or don't require a deposit. That's a great question. So Lynn is responding to, Alan, your question about the high deposits. If you're unaware of other brands, ask your consortium for help. Or even with that brand, maybe somebody there can make a phone call and help you out. See, that's where you can really value relationships that you've built with your consortia, who built with your brand or with your brand. Lynn, thanks for suggesting that. Yolanda says, I'm interested in getting into the meeting incentive travel business. All right, Yolanda, I'm hearing you loud and clear. Drew, hey, Drew, I just started working with my first meeting group. It is a group of veterinarians who need continuing education credits. Look at this, friends. I didn't even talk about this. See, this is different. Okay, this is different. You can work with a company that provides CEUs, continuing education units, credits, whatever the U stands for. It just slipped my mind. And you could be the agency that they book through. So it's their problem to fill the space, to fill the seats. All you do is you take the bookings, you provide the service, of course. You've got a lot of responsibility, but you're not in charge of the launch. They are. Now, I know my wife, Kimberly, I mentioned before that my daughter is studying to become a physician's assistant, and she will have to go every year for continuing education credits. There's a lot of businesses that require that, whether it's medical, real estate, mortgage, I don't know. There's a million kind of businesses that require this. So it's a huge field. But my wife she's a board certified cardiovascular nurse practitioner. Every year she goes someplace. She's never done it on a cruise. But she goes to hotels and resorts all over the country for this kind of training, and she loves it. And I'll tell you something else. So if you want to get in this business, I know meetings at sea sound sexy too, because those could be easier in a sense, maybe because the food and entertainment's built in. But with Kimberly, she goes. She's never done one at sea, but she's going to Vegas. She picked a I forget the name of the course, right? She's going, and it's something she needs, she wants, she's interested in. It's in Las Vegas. Guess what hotel? It's at the Four Seasons. And guess who's going along? Yours truly. I'm going to go. I'm going to, I'll work from the room during the day, maybe. We'll go out, party at night. We'll have a great time. She doesn't pay for me, of course. Her company pays everything for her. So thank you, Drew, for sharing, and I wish you good luck, and I hope that you would continue to share with us how your experience goes, and if you need help, we're here. I'm here. We're here. Nancy says, that is my big question. How do you get in? How do you market to them? Typically social media or just LinkedIn? All right, so I just want to tell you here, and I'm going to talk more about this, and I will in the future too, how to get into the, so I already kind of set you up what I think the steps you need to take, which is get the education, learn boot camp, read the PDFs, go watch my interview with Ron, call on those suppliers who desire this business for ongoing training, rebrand yourself before you start going out there. And I think you don't start going selling, you don't say, hey everybody, I do meetings and center, who can I help? No. Here's what you do. You start just sharing information. I mean, that's how I hope you build business now. You write a paragraph out. You write a little newsletter, or you share something that you've read. So just start sharing information about this topic, and you're going to catch somebody's eye, one of your clients, who say, oh, I didn't know you did this. I really enjoyed this article about the top 3 most important things about incentive travel. It's simple stuff. And you're going to start planting seeds out there. Now, of course, networking locally, because I think networking locally is the most important thing, because you're surrounded by businesses that are probably already doing an incentive. So my guess is if you do a home-based business or brick and mortar, all of you are already in networking groups, whether it's BNI or Toastmasters or whatever it is. So just share what you're doing. See, I'm so excited. I am now pursuing this business. I've been in travel X amount of years, and now I have become trained in this because I'm in a special training program. You can tell them that. Tell them that. You now are an expert in meetings and incentives, and because you know so much about the products, because you know so much about your local companies, that you're eager to help, and you're going to share information, shake hands, and let people know, spread the word, and maybe do a local event, have a little local meeting, have a little cocktail party, do something at the library, because maybe you'll get the local meeting planners at these companies to come out. Maybe they'll come out. And even if they don't, Nancy, even if they don't come to your event, they will be happy that you invited them, and they will always remember that it was Nancy who's the expert, who had a little program down at the library. I couldn't go, I was too busy, or I don't know Nancy, but when that comes up, I may just give her a call. I want somebody local, and I think you should play that up. The fact that you're local, start local. And the most important, start to let everybody know you're in this business that's on your existing list, because all the clients you will ever need are already on your list, or friends and family. Okay? Here we go. Lena said, I have changed my company and niche. I would like to start doing bi-monthly presentations where I present group tips I want to escort. I will promote to current clients, social media, but when are some of the other ideas for promoting my presentations? Well, I will host a total wine without spending a lot of money and time. Okay, so hang on one second, Lena. We're going to get back to you in a second. Nancy says, which module in boot camp are you speaking of? Oh, I think it might be in week 2. It's either week 2 or week 3. I will make a note here, and I'll post it on Facebook. But it's either week 2 or week 3. I know there's one video module. I know there's at least 2 special report PDFs that you can download. And I will tell you too which, if you go to the Ask the Experts Library, in the Experts Library, the program with Ron is definitely there. But I will repost that so you know where it is. But it's definitely there. Ramona says, please produce more materials on meetings incentives. This is the direction I'm heading. Beautiful. And okay, we got Nancy says, I think rebranding is important. It will be harder to do the first one. I have a website with some great content. Great. Okay, here we go. Let me just finish up Nancy here. How do we compete with meeting planners is another question, as typically companies go to them before us. Well, but sometimes meeting planners, Nancy, they use a travel professional to book. They're a meeting planner. They're an administrative or organizational expert, but they use a travel professional. Some of them are not registered to book with suppliers, so maybe you can get their business. You can become friends with them. They become your leader, if you will, and you form a partnership with that meeting planner. Or else you want to call yourself a meeting planner, do it. Why not? Why not? But make sure you have that confidence and that you're a good planner too, because remember, a meeting planner takes on more of a role to sit there and plan out the event. So you got to make that decision. Do you want to be a planner too and the agent, or just the agent, which means that you're going to start forming friendships with other meeting planners who have other clients. They're independent too. Okay? Or you're going to work with the meeting planner that's already inside the corporation, right? Everybody? There's some bigger companies out there that already have meeting planners. You know what? These days, sometimes it's done by HR. It's the HR department. It's somebody in HR that plans it. Sometimes it's the vice president of sales that ends up wearing that hat too, right? So my guess is every company already has somebody that does it, or they work with an independent meeting planner that you can that you can partner with. All right, let me go back here because I want to get back to, let me see where Marty is. Hold on, everybody. This is so exciting. So while I'm looking here, I'm going to take a sip of coffee, which I haven't even done yet. And my coffee press, I didn't use my coffee press for this cup of coffee. I'm so sorry. I know you're disappointed. Hold on. Where are you? Marty. Okay, here we go. Marty, we're putting together an established group and currently finalizing the quote. I'm netting down everything and adding our commission. Question, would you exclude the NCFs, non-commissionable fares, and or taxes on the cruise portion to come up with the cruise net, or include them? Personally, I think the NCFs should be included. That's a great question, Marty, and I'm so glad that you're asking this because when we look at all the numbers and if we net everything down, right? So remove the commissions, and if you're doing any value add extras, you may already have net rates. So you want to neutralize the numbers first of all, okay? And then you want to mark it up. 20%, 30%. Come on, make the money you earn, you deserve. Especially for a group, because maybe you've negotiated some great rates and the package price is going to be awesome, high value, more inclusive. But what do you do with the NCFs? Because you can't mark those up, and that you just collect. And that's a big choice, okay? Because if you when you put that price point out there, you have to clearly state, this does not include, or this includes. So if it was me, Marty, here's what I would do. I go for simplicity. I go for the ability to say, yes, it's included. It's so much easier to say, yes, that's included, than no, that does not include. That's an additional $200, $300. Now remember, I don't charge tax, I just collect it. It's a whole other conversation. So case in point, friends, is for my river cruise, I included that. Now I know river cruising doesn't have the NCFs. I get that. I do. And you and I both know that the consumer has no clue what an NCF is. Never, ever, 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 ever use those words with them, because you're just going to confuse them, and they're going to be like, huh? That's none of my business. I don't want to know from it. Why do I have to pay it? Maybe I'll find somebody who won't charge me that. They won't believe you. Forget it. It's your business, not theirs. So my river cruise, I included gratuities, which is optional, but I prepaid the gratuities. So, and I kept reminding them that. Now listen to this, Marty. When I was right before the cruise and during the cruise, I reminded everybody time and time again, gratuities are already included. I didn't say you have prepaid gratuities. You have. I took the credit for it, even though, of course, the consumer paid for it. Of course they did. Of course they did. But I said, I've taken care of your gratuities. If somebody has gone above and beyond, it's your prerogative to recognize that. Please do it. They love that. But know that I've taken care of all the gratuities. Now, of course, on a river cruise, it does not include gratuities on land. The hotel, tour guides, right? Does not include the excursions. You know the rule there. It's typically $2 for the tour guide, $1 for the driver. I made sure everybody knew that because I could not include that because I didn't know what tours people were going to be picking. So there's my answer, Marty. What do you guys think out there? I go the easy route. I love saying more inclusive. It's dangerous saying all inclusive if they end up shelling out $1 for something that you didn't even think of, like parking at the airport. You know what I mean? And it's a good news story. Yes, I've already included it. I've already included it. It's all, I'm taking care of it. I hope that helps, Marty. All right, let's see what we got here. Hang on, hold on, working, Drew, we got that one. Okay, let's go to Yes, Lena, okay. I've changed my company and niche, and I would like to start doing bi-monthly presentations, which I think is awesome, by the way, because that's just, if you know, one way is, of course, doing little blogs, little video clips. Another way is getting more involved locally. And listen, Lena, make sure you record these, right? You set up a camera in the back there and you record it because you want to post that. Leverage it. I make sure whenever I do a speaking gig, as often as I can, I record it, because not that I can use it to sell it, of course, but I take clips from it for my sizzle reel, and I show potential clients, all the potential clients, so they can see me speak. Okay, where I present group trips that I want to escort, I will promote to current clients, social media, but where are some other ideas for promoting my presentations? Well, I will host Total Wine. Okay, so Lena's going to provide wine. You know, I have to tell you something. So here's an idea that just popped in my head, Lena, which is some kind of a strategic partnership. It's one thing to go to a brand, a supplier, and say, hey, listen, I'm going to do a presentation series on river cruising. I'm going to do a presentation series on this kind of group travel. Will you help me? Will you give me a couple of bucks? And they might do it, and they might not. Okay, that's a no-brainer. That's easy. Of course, then you can only really focus on that product, to be fair. And that might be okay. A strategic partnership might be with a restaurant. So you do it on an off night when they've always got that back room sitting idle and sitting empty. A strategic partnership might be at a local wine store after hours, because you know a lot of them do wine tasting and all kinds of events. See, I don't have to tell you guys that local businesses, not all, but many, are freaking out. They're freaking out because people are ordering online, even though you could buy that same product around the corner. You guys know that. I'm guilty of it too. But is it guilt? It's convenience. I'm sitting there in my pajamas and I order something and it shows up 2 days later. I feel like it's a present at my front door, even though I paid for it, right? So local retailers, I believe, are very hungry for new ways to build their business. So Lena, perhaps you can look around town, places maybe you don't currently shop at. You're not a customer. It would help if you were a customer, but have a cup of coffee with an owner and say, how's business? Is it awesome? You don't need any help? Great. Nice to meet you. Continued success, but we're both local businesses. We're both looking to build. I'm looking to bring a small crowd in here to talk about group travel stuff. And hey, listen, we can showcase what you do here. Bring them in. Maybe they've never walked through the door. Of course you can do it at library. Of course you can do it at Panera Bread, this kind of stuff. But maybe you can get strategic because they have skin in the game too. They have an opportunity as well to grow their business in the local community. That's what I would do. And it may not just be a local business. Maybe it's another organization. You know, and I'm going to suggest something crazy here. Crazy, but think way outside the box. Maybe you could do this with, I don't know, a real estate company, another real estate agent, different. Okay? And maybe they're going to talk on a different topic, but somehow they're connected to your topic. I don't know. Think of what the connections could be. So when the consumer sees, hey, listen, there's an event, and we've got Lena there, she's talking about this, and we've got Bob there, he's talking about that, let's go. And I'm telling you, it's really tough to get people out. It is. How many events do you go to locally? You know, so remember, it's got to be compelling. But even if you do it and get the invitations out, you will be making an impact. And if they don't show up, follow up and say, hey, I know you missed, but here's a recap. The top 10 things we talked about. Download this PDF so you can leverage everything you do so it has legs to continue working in your favor. Videotape it in full or in part. Okay, so that you can upload those, and even if it's in segments, hey, here's a 3-minute clip of when I talked about this. A week later, here's a 3-minute clip of when I talked about this. Lena, does that help you tell me? Did it inspire any ideas? Okay, let me see here. I'm looking here. Oh, I want to share Sam's story, and then say first I want to read Sam's Sam, thank you for sharing this. I think this is going back to Alan's initial question. Supplier deposit info. Do face-to-face like this presentation. Are you dealing with a junior person or the supplier head of sales? Provide your group tours success history. Big deposits, as Stuart did, spread over timely client payment schedule. Yeah, so if in fact, and again, there's so many variables here, as Sam was suggesting, you have a history of success doing group tours in general, or you have a history of success with that particular supplier, but you want to leverage everything you've got to negotiate. I believe everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. I believe it. All you have to do is ask, with a real big smile and a twinkle, a little twinkle in your teeth. And if it's a reasonable request, and you say it lovingly, and you show enormous gratitude, then you might just get it. So why not? I want to just share this story with you quickly that Sam from Travel and Good Company shared with me. And Sam, please, this is something beautiful that I would encourage you to share in our Facebook, on our Facebook page. And everybody, we've got 15 minutes left, so stick with me. There's a lot more questions and issues we're going to talk about, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Have I thanked you for coming? Have I thanked you for being at boot camp yet? Well, I'm thanking you now. Thanks for being here. I can't tell you how much, truly, I look forward to doing these events with you. And while I love having a special guest, I love doing it just me and you. This is good stuff. I don't know anybody else in this industry who's doing this stuff, and I hope they would. But this gives me an opportunity to connect with you, to find out what's most topical, and to help you so that you feel you're getting great value out of being in boot camp. And so many of you have opted to stay in longer, to extend it, which I'm so grateful for. So basically, Sam got a referral. Right? Sam got a referral from, I hope I get it right, Sam, from a couple who were retired, and they were not travelers. This couple, they just never traveled. They were retired, so had a couple of conversations, and just went prepared with 2 different options to present when the couple agreed to meet with Sam, to get together, which is beautiful that you were able to do that. But it wasn't until after Sam had that chat that she decided which way to go. Right? Because it's one thing you want to sell what you want. It's another, you can't sell them what you want. You got to solve their problem. You got to have a conversation and see what's their problem and give them the right solution, because they're never going to buy what they don't want, what they don't need. And sure enough, there were fears. My friends, you probably encounter this all the time. What were their fears? They had never really traveled before. They were afraid. They had anxiety. They had never cruised before. And when Sam started talking about a cruise, they told her that, oh, it's too fancy. We wouldn't fit in. They sort of shut it down. They had a preconceived notion. Don't you have all these people, friends, who have never cruised? They have these preconceived notions. I'll be trapped. There's nothing to do. I'm stuck on the ship. I'm going to eat too much and get fat. All this kind. Everyone has a preconceived notion, but there's always an opportunity, perhaps, to present it in a new light, the reality of it. So what did Sam do? She showed pictures. Not out of the brochure, but Sam showed pictures of her family cruising, having a good time. So not only did she help overcome that fear, that trepidation, by showing real pictures of real people, not models who the cruise lines hire, and entering, as Jeff Orca would say, entering their conversations, which enter the fear in their head. Address it, because you can't overcome it. Even if you give it away free, they're not going to go. And here's the clincher, friends. Now pay attention. Everyone's going to learn from this. We talk about this. I've been talking about this for day one, and Sam does it every time, and most of the time with great success. Listen up. She asked 2 questions after this couple said, yeah, we're going to go. Sam said, do you have any friends or family who need a vacation? Do you have any friends or family who need a vacation? When Alex Pinella was on the show, he said that too, because then you end up doubling or triple the number of staterooms you book. This is part of the phrase that pays. You remember my phrase that pays, everybody, which is, thank you for making me your travel agent. I'm grateful for your business. Do you have any friends or family who need a vacation? Well, Sam asked it. And the second thing she asked was, do you have any special events you'll be celebrating? Right? Because we do that with groups. That's a great way to get new groups. Do you have any special events on the horizon? And almost everybody does, and there's a potential for a group. And guess what happened? They do have an upcoming event. It's his 60th birthday. So my guess is Sam's going to plan a little some special birthday thing on this trip. And guess what? The friend said, yeah, we'd love to travel with these friends. Would you talk to them? So she's in the process of having conversations. Sam, did I recap it? Well, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of all of you for doing stuff. This is easy stuff, friends. It's 2 easy questions. Oh my gosh, look at that. And you just think of how much joy you're bringing to more people, especially this couple and potentially other couples. Okay, now we're going to keep going because we have 10 minutes left, and we are, let's see, Nancy, how to consider rebranding while I'm trying to focus on affinity groups that come to me and that I'm sourcing, plus small groups I'm escorting. She just returned from Namibia and Botswana. I already fit a bit stretched out. So Nancy is saying here that she already has, looks like a healthy affinity group business. And now Nancy, I don't know if you're referring to rebranding to do meetings and incentives that you won't have time to stretch to do that new business, or you're just struggling with the business you have and rebranding so you get more of what you have. So I'm going to assume that you're talking about meetings and incentives and that you're stretched and you don't have time because you already have great, healthy, a rich small group and affinity group business that's working well. So if in as much as it looks appetizing, maybe there's a time and a place for it, Nancy. Maybe it's down the road some. And I get your emails, Nancy. I'm on your list. I love your newsletter that you put out, if you will. It's not really a newsletter. It's an update. But what I love most about it, there's a lot of pictures, Nancy. I see you and your smiling, beautiful face in these pictures having a great time. I love it. Everybody, if you're not in these pictures smiling, having a great time with your clients, you're missing out on a great opportunity, because it's a great way to convince people that you're good at what you do and you know how to have a good time, right? So I get it, Nancy, and it's a tough decision. The other opportunities, if you want to expand your business, work with somebody else. Work with somebody who can specialize in that part of your company if you want to grow like that, you know. Nancy said, right, okay, hard to consider rebranding into meetings and incentives. I get it. I get it. Ann says, if you work with a meeting planner, what is your source of income if all you're doing is booking a block of rooms? Many of those type of hotels don't pay commission to agents. That's right. So if you work with, Ann says, if you're working with a meeting planner, if you work with a meeting planner, the meeting planner is going to get, it all depends. If the meeting planner is already contracted to do business with this corporation, this company, maybe they know this person, they trust this person, and it's a contract relationship, independent contractor, right? And then you get to work with this meeting planner and you do their fulfillment, okay? That meeting planner, you need to find out, it's a great question, is either already getting paid, either a per diem or one lump sum for handling the meeting. So you won't have to worry about that because the cost of the trip is separate, right? Now, what you do need to find out, naturally, if that's the case, and number two, is will you also need to escort along with the meeting planner? Now, if it's a big enough or complex enough group, Ann, I would say you got to be there. Because you're the one. You need to listen, everybody. You need to own the relationship with the brand, with the supplier, or else you don't validate your existence. So those relationships stay sacred. You don't want to give that entree to the meeting planner. Frankly, they may not want it because they've got their own stuff they're dealing with. They're the ones planning the event. They're the ones helping doing the launch with the client, and they're the ones who are going to then work with you to make sure the room is set up, the accommodations are perfect, the dining is perfect, the excursions are set. Believe me, they've got enough on their plate, and so will you. But I always suggest you go too, because you need to own that relationship with the supplier. And remember, in your conversations with the meeting planner, you never want to say, celebrity did this, Royal Caribbean is going to do this. Always take the credit. It's you. It's you. I'm doing this. I'll have this ready. Oh, guess what I got? I got a little something special for you, because, or else, then why do they need you if it's even though you're the one making it happen? Do you know what I'm saying? And tell me if that helps. Let's see. Jean Ann says, in working with small businesses for their incentives or meetings, would you charge a retainer? Great question. I would say I've not really heard of that unless it's a company, Jean Ann, that does a good many of them, a good many of meetings and incentives, and then you're on a retainer. That could get dangerous, naturally, if they use you for more time than you had anticipated. How many hours per week, per month? So it really depends. It's situation. That might be a brilliant idea, so that you know there could be peaks and valleys of workflow, and you're prepared for that. But when they need you, because you're on retainer, you've got, right, Gina, and you've got to jump and stop and drop everything you're doing and be for them, be with them, or else they're going to be aggravated. So they're going to always need to expect you to be available at any time. Hopefully, they'll have a plan so you know when those peaks and valleys will come, when you're going to be needed and not needed. Otherwise, you work on a project basis. And with meetings and incentives, friends, we didn't talk about this, but I think I just want to make sure you know, you don't assess an additional management fee. It's part of the package. You know, and you need to get that permission up front from the meeting planner of the corporation. Say, I'm going to present you a package that includes this. We talked about inclusions before, and includes me too. And if they say, no, we want a stripped down price of the trip itself, which of course won't be stripped down because that's going to be a package, and say, we want to know what your management fee is. I would hesitate on that because you don't want them shopping you and say, all right, he's charging me $3,000. I got to find somebody who's charging me $2,000 for the same deal. So the more I talk, the more I want to convince myself and you never, ever, ever to break out your fee. Nobody wants to pay an additional fee, but they will pay a more inclusive package fee that already includes everything, including you. Lena says, great idea. I'm glad that helped. Lori says, hey, Lori, I love the idea of strategic partnerships, ideas on how to bring people in, especially if my client list is rather small. So let me read it again, everybody, and get your last minute question. We have 3 minutes left. Stick with me. I love the idea of strategic partnerships, ideas on how to bring people in, especially if my list of clients is rather small. You got to get out there, shake hands, Lori. Man, if we had time, I would love to share with you what I've done in Memphis, where I moved in, I didn't know a soul. And I met one person at a time, one handshake at a time. And now, guess what? June 22nd, yours truly, I'm doing a keynote at the Memphis Convention and Visitors Bureau. And it was all through one shake hand, not selling everything, just asking people that I found interesting, hey, you got 15 minutes for me? I just looking to make new friends. And everyone, almost everyone, let me in the door, which led to this, I speak for the local leadership organization. I've done a course at the Entrepreneurship Masterclass, all from networking. Amazing things happen when you put yourself, listen to me, put yourself in opportunities' way. Whether it's Meetup, whether it's BNI, I mean, there's so many organizations, so many. Or you can start your own. I'm revitalizing an organization in Memphis that sort of fizzled called the Memphis Coaches Network. If you're a friend on my personal page, you may have seen that. Actually, I don't know if you did because I started a separate group, and that's all 100% volunteer. But why am I doing that? Because I want to. I believe coaches are typically the happiest people on earth too. All kinds of coaches, life coaches, business coaches, health coaches, HR coaches. But it's also going to help me in my business at the end of the day too. Lori, I hope that helps. Nancy said, thanks for reinforcing the point that getting out there, even if only 10 people show up, is making an impact. It is. I write a monthly travel column in our local paper, was invited to speak at the first Monday seniors meeting about travel tips for seniors. Why? Because when you put information out there free, you position yourself as an expert, and they'll come to you. They will. Same topic as my latest article that came out on Friday. So even though there were only 10 people there, I feel like I broke through them. I just returned from Namibia, Botswana. They wanted to hear more about that tour. So I plant the seed in person. Yeah, whenever you're back from a trip, whenever you're back from a training session, leverage it. Everything you do should have legs. Me and my business, everything I do is never going to be a one-off. It will always lead me to bigger and better things. So this river cruise, I'm going to leverage this forever. Teaching agents, teaching you guys, helping Amr Water however I can to help you in business and to help me too. So it's always a jumping off point. I'm going to use it to leverage to get new people in boot camp. I want to grow boot camp. I can help 20,000 more agents. They just don't know I'm alive. So if I keep putting more information and free webinars out, they'll know I'm alive. They know I can help.